Hello, it is Wednesday, March 1st, 2023 at 12:20 p.m. Eastern Time, USA. This is my video journal. I'm Mitch Miller. I'm catching up on some ideas that were bouncing around my head while I was on vacation for the past week. So it's been about 2 weeks since I've done these video journals. So the next two videos are in honor of Seth Fisher of Johnson & Johnson Corporation. While we were in Florida at my father-in-law's house, he came to visit. I used to ride motorcycles with Seth. He's a good guy, and I don't know much background on Seth. I believe he's Jewish and possibly was in the some military. I'm not going to look too much into his background, but I'm not sure what his role in Johnson & Johnson currently is. If he's retired or what the situation is. But some things were brought up, some injury claims. My mother-in-law brought up the Johnson & Johnson baby powder thing, and we started talking about lawsuits against drug companies, and Seth mentioned something about tort reform, which I'll get into. I just researched it briefly. But the argument made that I heard was that pharmaceutical companies charge so much profit because it's so easy to litigate against them, get class action lawsuits, and have patients or have people who are taking their products sue and get huge settlements and damage, cash reward awards found by them from pharmaceutical companies to class actions. So before I get into possible solutions to this, I just want to give a little bit about my background. Now, my father-in-law was an executive for Johnson & Johnson Corporation, a large pharmaceutical company. But my actual father, he was his own pharmaceutical company. He was the producer, manufacturer, distributor, and sales rep for a pharmaceutical company. So again, I don't think we need large corporations to tell us what we need and develop these products. I believe there's other ways of doing it, and that's why I've said that I am trying to systematically dismantle the pharmaceutical industry, namely because I come from a family that was a pharmaceutical family. It just showed that you could do it on the local small batch level, small batch pharmaceutical company. As for my background, my father secretly grew marijuana in our house when I was growing up in a secret room. He kept it from his kids. We didn't find out. I didn't find out until I remembered that there was a room when I was 13, and I found the secret grow room. But up until that point, I had no idea that my father grew marijuana. I knew he had friends over, and that was the sales portion of it for friends and family. He distributed that drug, marijuana, THC, small level, small batch, local, and so yeah, that's my father was a pharmaceutical executive for a small pharmaceutical company, a one-man operation. Now, for larger products like hip replacements and stuff like that, are you going to be able to do that with a one-man operation? No, but some drugs you could. I guess that's the argument that I find interesting for large pharmaceutical companies. They do make all this profit, but they do put forward new products like a hip replacement, things that go in your body that are bound to be rejected by the body because they're foreign objects, basically. And so you do have to incur some sort of cushion to cover when these products fail or when there is legal suits for that. As for the drugs and side effects and how people receive benefits from side effects, I believe we could do something with that. Now, what I read about tort reform is that they want to take the the jury process out of these trials, which I'm against. The trial by jury is guaranteed in the Constitution, and I wouldn't be an advocate for that at all. The other thing is banning the recruitment ads to recruit patients that took a drug to be in a class action. Then from what I hear, they call up and say, we've got 5,000 people that took your drug. What are you going to do? And then they end up settling because they put together this class action out of the blue, apparently. But apparently there has to be some kind of truth. Some people experience some side effects, I'm sure. Now, so you require that pharmaceutical companies say all their side effects on their ads. I believe something could be done about recruitment ads to make them more honest and truthful and screen for the actual patients that were injured by the product. But so my solution here is you have products that have side effects. You clearly label them, right? And so if the argument for a pharmaceutical executive is, I charge 1,400 or 1,600% profit on a product because I'm going to incur a bunch of lawsuits, right? Before, I've heard the argument that it's for research and development, but the government pays for a lot of the research through our universities, which I think we should shift to universities becoming entities that can produce pharmaceuticals, and I've said that on this journal, I think, and hold them, to a certain amount of accountability, but waive certain accountability so that they can produce at least standard drugs like insulin, things like that. But so the research is partially paid for by the taxpayer for these companies. So that's not an excuse to charge 1,400% profit. Now the argument is we're going to incur a bunch of lawsuits and class action lawsuits, so we have to charge a high profit margin to incur all these lawsuits, right? So here's a simple solution. I'm all for simple solutions, right? You list all the side effects on the product. You have with the patient, with the physician, tells them the side effects. You have them read the drug information, and maybe they have an account that they have to read and click, I agree that I know the side effects before I take this medication. That's step one. More of a sign-off about knowing the effects of the drug. Number two, maybe they have this pharma account or whatever, this Medicaid account. They have read and understand the possible side effects. Now they get to choose what level they want to pay for a drug, right? So say you take Risperdal, like I do. I read all the side effects, I click OK, or I sign off that I know the side effects. And then what do me and my insurance company, or I the layman without insurance, want to pay for the pharmaceutical, right? So I'll pay the 1,400% profit on this drug, that price, whatever price Johnson & Johnson puts out, where they're making 1,400% profit. They have to clearly label how much profit they're making off the product. It means transparency in the manufacturing and distribution and everything. I'll pay 1,400% that price, but I get full reign for my legal rights to come against the Johnson & Johnson Corporation. I can sue for any amount of reasons. Or I pay a 100% profit, and some of my legal rights to seek legal action against Johnson & Johnson are reduced, right? There has to be this many cases of the side effect there has to be, so some of my legal rights are reduced pursuing Johnson & Johnson, or I pay the rational amount of profit on a product, 20%, and I waive all legal rights to sue Johnson & Johnson for manufacturing this product. I take responsibility on my doctor's recommendations that I need to be on this medication, and I pay they only make a 20% profit on the drug, but I waive all my legal rights. So that's just some solutions that I'm thinking of here. That brings accountability for the executives, right? Okay, I can charge a 2,000% profit, but I might have to incur these legal lawsuits, or I only pay a 5% profit. I only pay the price of a 5% profit, but I waive all my rights down the line to sue Johnson & Johnson. So I don't know how we can play with that. That would be my idea of tort reform, right? You waive some of your legal rights for a lower price, because that's their excuse, is that you can come after them if you have if your ear starts hurting, and anyone can find a lawyer to sue them and seek legal action, right? So that's what I was working with when I was thinking about it. The government's not big on you waiving legal rights, but somewhere in the middle we can find a way to say, you can only sue the company if 100 other people had a similar side effect. It was verified by 3 different doctors, and they went to, and it was tested and things like that. So that's the argument. You can't prove it. You just put in a pharmaceutical executive's own words, you wheel a lady in that's drooling because she had a stroke, and put that in front of a jury and say she was on your product, and the jury is always going to find for the defendant. Even though these companies can afford big fancy legal teams, that's the argument I'm hearing. So that's my solution. You could work with insurance companies so that they could take some of the liability for reducing the profit on the product. We will pay this much. We'll pay full price. That's the problem, is that these executives argue that they have to make millions of dollars a year to afford a lifestyle in retirement and afford the health care that they need to live at home or whatever, but they've contributed to the healthcare system being out of control and not affordable for people at the end of their life, and they have to give up their houses, their possessions, and everything just for hospice care and things like that. So they're part of a broken system, and they don't try to think of a solution. They just want to take away right to trial by jury and legal ads, and that's the issue. So join me next time when I have a solution for recreationally legalizing more drugs. It's a simple device, and it could revolutionize the pharmaceutical industry. It should have been thought of a long time ago. Maybe it has been, but it plays into the responsibility on the patient, being fully informed, and things like that. So I'll be on in about an hour or a little bit later to talk about that. Thanks for watching.